The stars had been quiet for so long that most beings in the galaxy had forgotten about the small blue planet called Earth. 300 years had passed since anyone heard from the humans. No messages, no trade ships, no diplomatic contacts. Nothing at all. Most alien species believed the humans had killed themselves in some terrible war. Others thought maybe a disease had wiped them out, or perhaps an asteroid had hit their world. It happened to many young civilizations. They would grow, learn to use technology, then destroy themselves before they could join the greater galactic community. The galaxy moved on without them. New shipping routes were created that went around the Sol system completely. Even the bravest explorers stayed away from that area of space. Old warning signs still floated in the cosmic databases. Dangerous primitives and quarantine zone, do not enter. Earth became just another sad story that professors would tell their students. Another example of a species that could not make the jump from a single world to the stars. The textbooks barely mentioned humans anymore. Just a few lines about how they had shown promise but failed like so many others. On a distant world called Kepler 442b, Commander Veltar was having a normal day. She belonged to a species called the Altarians, tall blue beings with 4 arms and large black eyes. Her job was to watch the frontier regions of space, making sure nothing dangerous was happening out there. Veltar was reading through the daily reports when her sensors officer ran into the room. Throck was a crystalline, a being made of living crystal that could change colors based on emotions. Right now, Throck was flashing bright orange, which meant he was very worried about something. "Commander," Throck said, his crystal body flickering like a broken light. "You need to see this right away. Our deep space monitors are picking up some very strange readings." Veltar looked up from her reports. "What kind of readings?" "Gravitational anomalies," Throck replied, his voice shaking a little. 17 different locations all in the same general area of space. "These are not natural phenomena, Commander. Something is bending spacetime itself." This got Veltar's attention immediately. She stood up and walked over to the main display screen. Her 4 arms moved quickly across the control panels, bringing up the sensor data that Throck had discovered. What she saw made her feel cold inside. The readings showed massive distortions in the fabric of space itself. But these were not random distortions caused by black holes or neutron stars. These were precise, calculated, and clearly artificial. "Where exactly are these anomalies located?" she asked. Throck highlighted the star map, showing 17 points of light scattered across a large area of space. "They form a perfect sphere, Commander. Each anomaly is exactly the same distance from a central point." Veltar stared at the map for a long moment, then realized what she was looking at. The center of that sphere was the Sol system, the dead system where humanity used to live. "These readings," she said slowly, "how long have they been active?" "That's the strange part," Throck replied. "Our computers show they just appeared 3 days ago. All at the same time, down to the microsecond. It's like someone threw a switch and turned them all on at once." Veltar felt her hearts beating faster. The Altarians had 2 hearts, and both of them were racing now. This was not possible. The Sol system was dead. Everyone knew that. There had been no signals from Earth for centuries. She studied the data more carefully. Each gravitational anomaly was incredibly powerful, strong enough to bend light itself. But they were also perfectly controlled, not causing any damage to nearby star systems. Whatever was creating them had technology far beyond anything the Galactic Council possessed. "Commander," Throck said quietly, "what if the humans are not extinct? What if they have been hiding all this time?" The thought sent chills through Veltar's body. If humanity was still alive, and if they had developed this kind of technology, then everything the galaxy believed was wrong. The species they had written off as primitive and dead might actually be more advanced than anyone else. "Run a full spectrum analysis on these anomalies," she ordered. "I want to know everything about them. How they work, what they are made of, what their purpose might be." "Already working on it," Throck replied, his crystal form now flickering between orange and red. "But Commander, there is something else. The pattern of these anomalies, it looks like some kind of detection grid, like they are watching everything that moves through that region of space. Veltar felt her blood turn to ice. A detection grid around the Sol system meant that humanity had been watching them, watching everyone, for who knew how long. "Send an emergency message to the Galactic Council immediately," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "Priority 1 classification. Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate attention." "What should I tell them?" Throck asked. Veltar looked at the star map one more time, at those 17 points of light forming a perfect sphere around Earth. "Tell them that humanity's silence might be about to end, and we need to be ready for what comes next." As Throck sent the message, Veltar continued to stare at the impossible readings on her screen. Deep in her hearts, she knew that everything was about to change. Far below the surface of the moon, in tunnels and chambers that had been growing, for 300 years, Dr. Jiho Kim stood in front of the biggest computer screen that humans had ever built. The screen was so large that it covered an entire wall of the underground room. On it, he could see not just Earth and the moon, but hundreds of alien worlds scattered across nearby space. The screen showed real-time information about every planet, every space station, and every ship within 100 light-years of Earth. Tiny lights blinked as alien vessels moved between stars. Data scrolled past showing population numbers, military strength, and political activities of dozens of different species. Jiho was not alone in the vast chamber. Hundreds of other humans worked at smaller screens and control panels throughout the room. They had been watching the galaxy for centuries, learning everything they could about their alien neighbors while staying completely hidden. "Sir," called Mina Lee, his assistant, from across the room. She was young, maybe 30 years old. But like everyone else in the facility, she had access to technology that made her much more capable than any human from the old days. "The Galactic Council just finished their emergency meeting on Altair Prime. They voted to send a diplomatic ship to investigate the gravitational readings we let them detect." Jiho smiled at this news. It was the same kind of smile that a chess player might have when an opponent moved exactly where they wanted them to. "Perfect timing," he said. "That matches our projections exactly. How are our new ships performing?" "All 37 test vessels are working better than we hoped," Mina replied, reading data from her screen. "The displacement drives are completely stable, and our stealth technology is working perfectly. Even when our ships get close to alien vessels, they cannot detect us at all. But the most important news is that the consciousness transfer systems are ready for full use." Jiho nodded as he watched information flow across the giant display. Humanity had not been sleeping during the 3 centuries when the galaxy thought they were dead. While aliens assumed humans had destroyed themselves in wars or died from disease, the truth was very different. Humans had been busy. They had been learning, growing, and changing in ways that would shock the galaxy. They had not just improved their technology. They had improved themselves. The old problems that had limited humanity for thousands of years, aging, death, the slow speed of space travel, the limits of the human brain, all of these had been solved. The moon base where Jiho worked was just one of dozens scattered throughout the solar system. Each base was connected to the others through quantum communication networks that worked faster than light. Humans could now share thoughts and memories instantly across vast distances. A person could die on Mars and wake up in a new body on Earth without losing a single memory. "Sir," another technician called out, "we are receiving reports from our observation posts throughout the galaxy. The alien governments are all responding exactly as our models predicted. Fear, curiosity, and confusion in equal measure." Jiho walked over to a section of the display that showed the alien response to the gravitational anomalies his people had revealed. Military ships were moving toward human space from several directions. Diplomatic channels were buzzing with activity. Some species were scared, others were excited, and a few were already planning potential attacks. "They still think like they did 300 years ago," Jiho said to Mina. "They see an unknown phenomenon and their first thought is either to study it or destroy it. They have no idea what they are actually dealing with." Mina looked at the data streaming across her screen. "Should we be concerned about the military vessels heading our way?" "Not at all," Jiho replied. Their weapons are based on technology we moved beyond 2 centuries ago. Their fastest ships would take months to reach us, and we could stop them long before they became a threat. But that is not the plan. He touched a control on the main display, and the view changed to show the space around Earth. What looked like empty space to alien sensors was actually full of human technology. Massive structures floated in orbit, disguised to look like space debris or asteroids. These had been there for decades, growing slowly and carefully. Initiate Phase 2, Jiho commanded. Throughout the chamber, technicians began working at their controls. On the main display, Jiho watched as the space around Earth began to change. The structures that had been hidden for so long started to unfold like giant flowers blooming in the darkness. What the aliens had thought were the remains of dead human civilization were actually something much more dangerous. Like a butterfly emerging from its cocoon, humanity was about to reveal what they had become during their long silence. The transformation is beginning, Mina reported. All systems are responding normally. The galaxy is about to meet the new humanity. Jiho smiled as he watched centuries of careful planning finally come to life. Humanity had spent 300 years learning, growing, and preparing. Now it was time to show the galaxy what happened when you left the most adaptable species in known space alone for too long. The age of human hiding was over. The age of human emergence was about to begin. The Altarian diplomatic ship, Harmony's Edge, suddenly appeared at the edge of the Sol system after traveling faster than light. Captain Veltar had been sent by the Galactic Council to investigate the strange readings that had been detected around Earth. She was an experienced captain who had made first contact with new species many times before, but something felt very wrong as soon as her ship arrived. Her sensors were going crazy. They showed massive amounts of energy throughout the solar system, but when she looked out the windows, she could see nothing unusual. Just empty space, a yellow star, and a few planets in the distance. It was like her instruments were seeing things that were not there, or maybe seeing things that were hidden somehow. Captain Veltar was tall and blue with 4 arms, like all Altarians. Her large black eyes studied the sensor readings carefully. Her crew was nervous. They had expected to find a dead system, maybe some old ruins or floating debris from a long-dead civilization. Instead, their ship was detecting energy levels that were off the charts. "Open all communication channels," she ordered her communications officer. "Send the standard first contact message." She took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. "This is Captain Veltar of the Galactic Council. Vessel Harmony's Edge. We come seeking dialogue with any representatives of the human species. Please respond." For a moment, there was only silence. Then something happened that had never occurred in all of Veltar's years of space travel. Instead of hearing a voice through the ship's speakers, she heard a voice inside her head. Not just her, but every member of her crew heard the same voice at the same time. The voice was calm, friendly, and definitely human, but it spoke in perfect Altarian, perfect crystalline, and perfect universal standard all at the same time. Each crew member heard it in their own language. "Welcome back to Sol, Captain. We have been expecting you. Please maintain your current position while we prepare for formal contact." Veltar felt her 2 hearts beating fast. How was this possible? How could someone speak directly into their minds? And how did they know she was coming? "Captain," her sensor officer called out in a shaky voice. "You need to see this." Veltar looked at the main display screen and felt her blood turn cold. The space around their ship was beginning to shimmer and bend, like looking through water. Reality itself seemed to be twisting and changing. Then suddenly they were no longer alone. Ships appeared around them. But they were not ships like anything in the galactic databases. They were impossible shapes that seemed to exist in more dimensions than normal space should allow. Some looked like crystals that folded in on themselves. Others were smooth curves that seemed to twist through space in ways that hurt to look. And the largest structure was approaching their ship. As it got closer, Veltar could see that it was unfolding like a flower made of metal and energy. What had looked like a solid object from a distance was revealing itself to be something much larger and more complex. "Captain," her pilot said in a whisper, "that thing is opening up. It looks like it has a docking bay inside." Veltar watched in amazement as the alien structure continued to unfold. The docking bay that was revealed was impossible. From the outside, the structure had looked maybe twice the size of her ship, but the bay that opened up was huge, easily large enough to hold a dozen vessels like the Harmony's Edge. A gentle force began pulling their ship forward. Not a harsh tractor beam like most species used, but something soft and careful that guided them into the bay without any stress on their hull. As they entered the bay, Veltar could see that the walls were covered with displays showing star charts. But these were not normal star charts. They showed the real-time positions of every ship in the galaxy. She could see Altarian vessels near their homeworld, crystalline trading ships in the outer rim, and military fleets from a dozen different species. How do they know where every ship is? She whispered to herself. The Harmony's Edge settled gently onto a landing platform inside the bay. The bay doors closed behind them, and Veltar could see that atmosphere was being pumped in. Lights came on, revealing that the bay was even larger than it had seemed from outside. "Captain," her communications officer said, "we are receiving a message that someone wants to meet with us." Veltar made a decision that would change galactic history. "Open the airlock. We will meet with them." She walked to the airlock with two of her officers. When the doors opened, they saw a figure waiting for them. It looked human. 2 arms, 2 legs, normal height. But the way it moved was different. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible, like it was floating just slightly above the ground. When the figure spoke, Veltar heard something that made her feel both afraid and amazed. The voice was clearly that of one person, but underneath it she could hear harmonics and overtones that suggested thousands of other voices speaking in perfect unison. "I am Hana, speaking for humanity," the figure said with a smile. "We apologize for the deception, but we needed time to prepare for our return to galactic society. We have much to discuss." Veltar realized that everything the galaxy thought they knew about humanity was wrong. Captain Veltar followed Hana through corridors that seemed to stretch impossibly far in all directions. The walls were alive with moving images and data streams that showed information from across the galaxy. Her crew walked behind her in stunned silence, trying to understand what they were seeing. They entered a room that was so large it could have held her entire ship. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into darkness above them. Around the walls were massive screens showing star maps, planet surfaces, and what looked like live video feeds from hundreds of different worlds. Hana gestured for them to sit at a table that seemed to be made from a single piece of crystal. As soon as they sat down, the air around them filled with holographic images that showed the history of humanity over the past 3 centuries. "You see, Captain," Hana began, her voice somehow carrying the weight of countless years. 300 years ago, humanity faced a very important choice. We could join the galactic community as we were, weak, short-lived, limited by our biology, or we could become something better. The holographic displays showed images that made Veltar's crew gasp in shock. Humans transferring their minds from old bodies to new ones. People who had lived for hundreds of years, accumulating knowledge and experience that no single being should be able to possess. Vast computer networks that connected millions of human minds together, allowing them to think and work as one. "We chose to evolve," Hana continued. "Not just our technology, but ourselves. We solved the problem of death by learning to move our consciousness between bodies. We solved the problem of distance by bending space and time itself. We solved the problem of limited intelligence by connecting our minds together." Veltar watched the displays with growing horror and amazement. The images showed technologies that were centuries ahead of anything the Galactic Council possessed. Ships that could travel instantly between stars, computers that could predict the future with perfect accuracy, weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. "But why did you hide?" Veltar asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Why let the galaxy think you were dead? Why not share this knowledge with the rest of us?" For a moment, Hana's individual voice was joined by what sounded like millions of other voices speaking in perfect harmony. The sound filled the chamber and made Veltar's bones vibrate. Because humanity needed to grow without interference. We needed to become what we truly are without other species trying to stop us or control us. The displays around them changed to show real-time surveillance of the galaxy. Veltar could see the inside of the Altarian government buildings on her home world. She could see crystalline military bases in distant systems. She could see secret meetings of species she had never heard of, planning wars and invasions that the Galactic Council knew nothing about. "We have been watching everything," Hana said simply. "We know about the Zephyrian Empire's plans to expand into neutral territory. We know about the resource wars that are about to start in the Outer Rim. We know about the dying stars that will force billions of refugees to find new homes." Veltar felt ice in her veins as she realized the implications. "How long have you been watching us?" "Since the day we went silent," Hana replied. "We have been learning everything about every species in the galaxy. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your plans, your fears. We know more about galactic civilization than the Galactic Council itself." One of Veltar's officers, a young crystalline named Crix, spoke up with fear in his voice. "What do you want from us? Are you planning to conquer the galaxy?" Hana turned to look at him, and her expression was kind but somehow terrifying at the same time. "We want to help. The galaxy is facing problems that will destroy billions of lives. Wars are coming. Stars are dying. Species are planning to attack each other over resources that we can provide in unlimited quantities." She gestured to the displays, which now showed images of human technology, creating matter from pure energy, healing dying planets and stopping conflicts before they could begin. "Whether you want our help or not," Hana continued, "the galaxy is about to change. Humanity is returning to galactic society, but not as the weak species you remember. We are returning as something new, something better." Veltar found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "And if we refuse your help?" Hana smiled, but there was something in that smile that made Veltar's 4 hearts beat faster. "Then we will help anyway. We will not allow the galaxy to destroy itself through ignorance and pride. The question is not whether humanity will shape the future. The question is whether the rest of the galaxy will cooperate with that future or fight against it." The displays around them showed images of human ships appearing throughout the galaxy, solving problems and preventing conflicts with technology that seemed like magic. "The age of galactic chaos is ending," Hana said. "The age of human guidance is beginning. We hope you will choose to be part of that future rather than an obstacle to it." Veltar realized that everything was about to change, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. 6 months had passed since the day Captain Veltar first met Hana, and the galaxy had changed completely. Everything that everyone thought they knew about how the universe worked had been proven wrong. The changes happened so fast that most species were still trying to understand what had occurred. The dying stars that Hana had warned about were no longer dying. Human ships had appeared at each one, and somehow fixed them using technology that made no sense to galactic scientists. The stars that should have exploded and killed billions of people were now burning steadily again, as if they were young and healthy. The resource wars that had been building for decades simply stopped happening. Just as alien governments were preparing to fight over rare minerals and energy sources, human vessels began delivering unlimited quantities of these materials to anyone who needed them. The materials appeared to be created from nothing, using processes that violated everything scientists thought they knew about physics. Captain Veltar now had a new job. Instead of commanding a patrol ship on the frontier, she was the official representative of the Galactic Council to humanity. It was both the most important and most terrifying job in the galaxy. She stood on the observation deck of a massive human facility that orbited Earth. Through the crystal-clear windows, she could see the planet below. It was not the primitive world that her people's records described. Instead, it was a beautiful garden world covered in green forests, blue oceans, and gleaming cities that seemed to glow with their own light. "Still having trouble accepting it all?" a familiar voice asked behind her. Veltar turned to see Hana appearing out of thin air, as if she had simply stepped through an invisible door. This casual violation of the laws of physics no longer surprised Veltar. though it still made her nervous. "Your species has become something that should not be possible," Veltar said honestly. "In all our records of galactic civilization, going back thousands of years, no species has ever changed so completely while still remaining themselves." Hana smiled, and Veltar could see something in that expression that reminded her of the old humans from the historical records. The curiosity, the stubborn determination, and the strange mix of kindness and dangerous strength that had always defined humanity. "We are still human, Captain," Hana replied. "We just decided that being human did not have to mean being limited." Veltar looked back down at Earth, watching as streams of light moved between the planet and the orbital facilities. Each stream of light represented thousands of humans moving between physical and digital forms, transferring their consciousness as easily as her people might change clothes. Throughout the galaxy, human ships continued their work. They appeared wherever conflicts were about to start and somehow convinced everyone involved to find peaceful solutions. They delivered resources to poor worlds and technology to struggling civilizations. They offered other species the chance to improve themselves, but they made it clear that humanity would be guiding the galaxy's future, whether others cooperated or not. The Galactic Council had tried to object at first. Some species had even threatened to use military force against the humans. Those threats had ended quickly when human vessels had surrounded every major military base in the galaxy in the span of a single day, without anyone detecting how they had gotten there. Far away on the moon, in the vast underground command centers that had been hidden for centuries, Dr. Ji-Ho Kim stood with his colleagues watching their plans unfold across the galaxy. Mina Lee was monitoring the transformation of dying solar systems. Tae Park was overseeing the delivery of resources to hundreds of worlds. Yoon Choi was managing peaceful negotiations between species that had been enemies for generations. Phase 3 is proceeding perfectly, Mina reported. All major conflicts have been prevented or resolved. Resource shortages have been eliminated. The galactic economy is stabilizing under our guidance. Ji-Ho nodded as he watched data streams from across the galaxy. Every major decision that affected interstellar civilization was now being influenced by human advisors. Most alien governments did not even realize how much their choices were being guided by humanity's vast intelligence networks. "What about the other ancient species?" Tae asked. "Our deep space monitors are detecting movement in sectors that have been silent for millennia. This was expected. Humanity was not the only species that had chosen to hide while they developed new capabilities. Across the galaxy, other ancient civilizations were beginning to stir, wondering if it was time for them to reveal themselves as well. "Let them come," Ji-Ho said calmly. "We have been preparing for this possibility. Humanity is ready to meet whatever emerges from the depths of space." Back on the orbital facility, Captain Veltar continued her conversation with Hana. "What happens now? Will humanity rule the galaxy forever?" "We do not want to rule," Hana replied. "We want to guide. We want to help other species grow and develop without making the mistakes that could destroy them. We want to build a galaxy where every civilization can reach its full potential." Veltar looked at her with her large black eyes. "And if someone refuses your guidance?" Hana's expression remained kind, but there was steel underneath it. "Then we will guide them anyway for their own good and the good of everyone else. We will not allow the galaxy to destroy itself through ignorance or pride." The age of human silence was over. The age of human leadership had begun. And throughout the galaxy, every species was learning to live in a universe where humanity had grown up.